Yo, 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 what's good, fam? It's your boy Chino, and you already know the vibes. We back at it again. Today we're gonna be painting plastic aero parts. Alright guys, these are our pieces. They have been all cleaned, prepped, wiped down with alcohol. They are ready to be painted. And now we're going to start with our rear spats. We're going to be painting with this adhesion promoter. Not sure how liberal you want to go with this. This stuff is pretty light, not like paint. It smells like a solvent, and it seems to dry up really, really fast. All right, fam, we're back at it. So these pieces have had their 10 minutes for that adhesion promoter to cure. We've been shaking up our primer a little bit beforehand, so it's ready to go. This is saying spray from about 6 to 10 inches away, so that's what we're gonna do. Everything has a really nice coat of primer. All of that stuff pretty much killed one can of primer. These are our pieces that have been primered and dried overnight. So I am gonna give everything a quick little wipe down with some rubbing alcohol again, just to make sure we have a nice clean surface. After looking at them closely, I'm gonna give them another light coat of primer, just because there are some light spots, but there's a really nice coverage actually. I'm not gonna sand them. I'm just gonna wipe them down again so that we know they're nice and clean. And then I will give them another coat of primer. We'll let that dry. We'll see how it looks. As long as it looks like it does right now, which I'm pretty happy with, I will go ahead and lay down some paint, guys. So let me go ahead and clean these down. I'm not going to record that just because you've seen the process. You know how to clean this stuff. So I'm just going to wipe it down with a little bit of rubbing alcohol. Making sure I'm wearing some gloves so I don't get any oils from my fingers on the parts. Then we'll go ahead and lay some more primer down, and then we'll get into some paint. Alright, fam. So I've given everything a wipe down, another quick once over with our microfiber rag and some rubbing alcohol. and everything is ready for another light coat of primer. So we'll let that dry, and then we can get into laying down some paint. Primer should be nice and mixed up. Been shaking it vigorously for a while. So let's do this. Alright guys, I just gave all our pieces here another light coating of primer. So we gotta give them about 15 to 30 minutes to dry before I can do anything else with them. So once all this has that 15 to 30 minutes it needs to properly dry, we can move on to the next stage, which will be laying down some paint, time permitting. Hopefully we'll be able to get into that. And so I've been shaking this up for a while. It should be good and mixed up. I just lost my tip. Just for fun, I won't edit that out. All right, let's get to it. Oh wow, this stuff covers. Alright, that's it. Instructions for this particular paint says apply all coats within 1 hour. For additional coats after 2 hours. Wait 48 hours. So we want to make sure that our additional coats get laid on before that 1 hour window, because if you go past 2 hours you gotta wait 48 hours to be able to repaint. So I'm going to give roughly 15 up to 20 minutes. We'll see how it looks in that time, and I'll determine whether I can lay another coat on those. Sit up, go ahead, and lay down some of this paint. Guys, I feel like I got pretty decent coverage. I did honestly a pretty medium to light coat, maybe a little bit heavier than light, but not by much. Let's say a light to medium coat. So I do see some light spots that need a little bit more coverage, but I didn't want to go too heavy. but I got fairly good coverage across the entirety of the piece. This will have to sit for a little bit, and then I can come back and touch it up. Unfortunately, don't see instructions regarding how long to let this sit before recoating or before applying a top coat. Let me see if on the other one, the primer cans were both a little different on the outside. And one had instructions for that stuff, while the other can did not. Neither of these. Okay. Well, let me see if I can figure that out while it sets for a little bit. While that sets for a little bit, probably another 10 minutes, I'll take a look at those rear spats and touch those up accordingly as well, because I gotta touch those up within the hour. After that, I'll have to wait 48 hours before reapplying paint, which I don't want to have to do. I don't want to wait for 48 hours before I can get another coat in on those. Same for these pieces. Before I go ahead and let another coat on the rear spats, I'll let them continue to dry while I see if I can figure out what is recommended for recoat time for this. So, alright guys, we'll be back in a bit. Alright guys, these rear spats have had enough time to set that I can go ahead and apply the second coat into those. Alright guys, got pretty good coverage with the second coat. I think if I have time for it, get in another at least two, one for sure, but at least another 2 coats. I think I'll be really happy with this. I think the finish will be good. Alright fam, we're ready to lay down the second coat of paint on our rear diffuser and our roof spoiler. Alright guys, I just wanted to give you a little close-up while we wait for these pieces to cure. Still pretty wet. This is a lot glossier of a finish than I expected. I was looking for a bit more of a flat finish. I did just spray this, so let's give it, maybe after a full cure, it'll have a much flatter, not so glossy finish. It could be just because of how wet it is. It looks really slick right now. If it does in fact cure similar to this, I will probably go ahead and get a satin finish clear coat and spray over it just to see if I can get a more flat appearance, because I did not want such a glossy look. Alright guys, it's a little hard to see, not proper lighting. Pretty dark in this garage, but not bad so far. Everything looks okay. Not sure how well this translates on camera, but that ice silver metallic looks pretty good. Obviously, this still has to get top coated. I will give another light coat of base coat on both these pieces in just a few minutes. We're waiting for this to set a little bit more before I can come apply our third coat. Then we'll have to let these set overnight. And I don't think weather's gonna permit. I may have to wait until the weekend before I can go ahead and lay clear coat on these pieces. These pieces, like I said, we'll see how they cure. I may install them as is for now, but I do want a flatter finish than what it looks like this paint is going to give me. The top, I mean, I felt as though because of the cap and the description, this would be a flatter finish, kind of like what you see on the cap, less what you see, but let's not be too hasty. We'll see what it looks like when they actually fully cure. I will be able to go ahead and give these another little touch in just a moment, guys. So we'll cut back in just a minute for me to do that. Alright guys, we got a fairly decent looking finish so far. These pieces are going to need a cure. They're not going to get clear coated. For sure, they're going to let it get at least 48 hours of cure time. We'll see. They get a little touch up in certain spots. We're going to give it a minute to dry before we do that. We got very little paint here left to do that. Alright guys, these things have had enough time to set for me to go ahead and lay down one more light coat, and this fourth coat will be the final coat. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with the way these are turning out, other than the finish is a bit glossier than I wanted, but for now, we'll just have to live with that. In the future, we can go ahead and get these stuff in and try again with a different tint. This one is a little bit glossier than I was hoping for. We will see, maybe after a full 48 hours cure, it will get a bit flatter looking. I don't think that'll be the case, but we'll see. Alright guys, let's lay on this last little bit. Alright guys, that is the fourth and final coat for the rear spats. I think that's going to be more than enough. Alright guys, let's take a look. Just want to show you. This stuff has been setting a little bit since the last coat of base. I do see what looks like a little light area there. I do have a little bit in my can. A slight bit, maybe just enough to touch up areas like that. But for the most part, I got pretty good coverage with those two cans of base coat. I do think I have just enough left in that can to touch up that spot right there. But just looking at what I got so far, I am pretty happy with the finish. Now, I do have little bits of dust and some little, just little bits of dust that have landed. Doing this in the garage, so, you know, it's not a paint booth, it's not a perfect clean space, so you're gonna get things like that. But I will give this a quick light sanding with like some 2000 grit. I'll probably do wet sanding, and then we'll go ahead and apply our clear, so we'll have a really nice finish. All right, guys, I did touch this up a little bit right here. I had just enough paint in the can to touch up what I visually had some light spot right there. So this looks really wet now. Unfortunately, because I was down to the end of the can a little bit right here where I'm pointing at. Doesn't look bad, but there was like, I saw like a heavy blob of paint. Like not a full-on driplet, but kind of a blob of paint that when it hit, I was like, oh no. But like I said, because I do have some imperfections, some slight imperfections from little dust particles falling like right there in the finish of the base coat, like right here, you can see, focus a little bit right there. There are some really small spots like that, so I will give this the lightest 2000 grit wet sand. Just a really quick once over on this, on these parts, and then I will clear coat them. Yo, what's good, fam? It's your boy Chino, and we back at it. These parts are all set and ready to be clear coated, so let's get into it. Alright fam, this stuff has had enough time to flash off. I can go ahead and apply another coat of clear coat on these parts. Alright fam, we're back at it again, and we are going to lay down our third coat of clear. This stuff has had enough time to splash, so we'll lay down third coat. Let's get to it. Alright fam, we are all set with our third coat. We gotta let these flash again. I did run a little heavy on the rear diffuser. I am gonna have to do some wet sanding, so I did get it running the clear, but that's okay. You can do some wet sanding, you can take it down. It's not the end of the world. It can be fixed. Not ideal, but it can be fixed with a little bit of wet sanding. We can take care of it. We can take some of it off. It's not the worst thing in the world. So we can deal with that. Alright guys, that's it for now. Peace. Yo, we are back. Alright guys, this stuff has had enough time to flash off again. So we're going to come and give these a fourth and final coat for now. And yeah, we're gonna call it a wrap. It's starting to get a little bit later, so the temperatures are gonna start dropping, and I don't want to lay down any more clear once it starts getting a little bit too cold. So we're going to give it a fourth and final coat for now, and yeah, that's it. I think that may be it. We'll see. All right, guys, let's get to it. Great, I'm really happy with the finish. Just gotta let these cure. All right, guys, I just wanted to show you real quick. You can see right there, we gotta run. We went too heavy. We'll see in that. That's okay. Otherwise, we got a really decent finish on this piece right here. And we took our time and took all the proper steps in preparation. So this pretty decent looking finish should also stand the test of time, guys. It should be a long lasting, or decently long lasting quality finish. You can see it looks pretty nice. You will see some nibs from dust. That's just gonna happen. We're painting in a dirty, dusty garage. Check out the rear spats, guys. I didn't record this because I wasn't sure how the finish was gonna be, but I did buy a satin clear to spray them with to see if it gives them a slightly flatter finish, which was what I was looking for. It did give it more of a satin, less of a glossy sheen, more of a matted sheen. Still a little bit shinier than I would have liked, but this will do for now. Maybe in the future, I'll go ahead and sand these and start over with a different black trim paint. Hopefully, after a little bit of research and looking on the internet, I will find something that will give me a finish more to my liking. But that's it, guys. See, this came out pretty good. Rear roof spoiler looks pretty good. You can see a couple dust nibs in there, some slight imperfections, maybe even some orange peeling, but nothing too crazy. Pretty happy with the finish. After some wet sanding and a little buff and polish, this is gonna look pretty nice. Really happy with the outcome, other than this one imperfection right here, which isn't the worst. It's not bad. You know, we're no professionals here, but I'm happy with the outcome. So that right there, that we can deal with and fix. All right, guys, until the next time, peace. That's it for now, guys. We're all done painting plastic aero parts. Until the next time, let's get it, boys. Peace.